Alrighty then, the ongoing battle over voter registration fraud in the state of Ohio. Secretary of State Jennifer Brunner says it's all conjecture, nothing really is happening. Meanwhile, Acorn representatives are saying, yes, we are double registering people. We can't stop all the fraud. Yes, we are committing fraud. Yes, we are trying to coach people on the way into the polls on who to vote for. The people are saying, yes, I am being registered multiple numbers of times, but the Secretary of State continues to say it's all conjecture. It's not really happening. Joining us now, a gift from God, Brian Clark, spokesperson for the Secretary of State's office. Mr. Clark, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
All right. The federal judge last night said very clearly and without ambiguity that the Secretary of State, Jennifer Brunner, is breaking federal law. The federal law is being violated because she is not complying with the requirement to match voter registration data with the information in the BMV and the Social Security Administration databases. The Secretary stated last night that she's going to immediately appeal it, and they're going to do everything they can to ensure that the state's 88 county boards of elections can continue to allow early voting to proceed uninterrupted. Can you please tell me why?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, the lawsuit that was filed by the Ohio Republican Party simply misstates the facts. We have indeed been checking these voter registrations against both Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles and Social Security Administration for this entire year. We are providing that information in a secure and an efficient voter query system to Ohio's 88 county boards of elections. We're fully compliant with HAVA, and that is why we are appealing the judge's ruling.
So you think the judge is just flat out wrong?
Based on the evidence that we presented in the trial and that we will also be presenting to the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, we are indeed compliant with HAVA.
Well, evidently, according to the judge, that evidence was not very compelling because he said, no, you're not, and that's why he orders you to immediately comply. Let me ask you about Acorn.
Well, actually, Bob, if I could just say real quickly, that's not what the judge said. The judge did not say that we are not checking this information.
Well, he said you're violating federal law.
Well, what the judge expressed was concern beyond what HAVA requires, and that is why we're appealing his ruling. He has expressed concern that perhaps boards of elections may not be checking the checks that we're doing. So he is trying to make sure that boards of elections are complying with the information that we are providing them. He never at any point in his ruling said that we were not checking voter registrations against the Social Security Administration or the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles.
Brian, why does the Secretary continue to allow Acorn to operate with impunity? I mean, we're talking about an organization that is under investigation in over a dozen states. It's been convicted multiple times in multiple states of registration fraud in the past. They have been caught on camera admitting and acknowledging that they are actually out there not just trying to register people, but trying to actually garner votes for a particular candidate, all of which is rife for fraud. We also have, and before you answer, one other point here, we also have Acorn themselves admitting before the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections earlier this week that, yeah, there's fraud. We can't stop it all. We just don't have the resources to stop it all, but we're doing the best we can. That means they're allowing some fraud to go through, and the Secretary continues to make decisions that allow Acorn to do that. Why?
Well, first of all, the Secretary has not made any decision that would allow Acorn to do anything or not do
She won't allow observers at these early voting registration/voting precincts. She won't allow observers to watch these Acorn people who are admittedly coaching these individuals that they are gathering up at bus stops and homeless shelters, telling them who to vote for. She won't let people watch that so that they can stop it.
Well, Bob, we have bipartisan elections officials here in the state of Ohio. They can watch over every single inch of the voting system here in our great state.
Well, if that's the case, why are there election observers allowed on November 4th if the bipartisan election workers are enough oversight?
Because that is one of the 5 times when the Ohio General Assembly has provided for those observers.
So once again, one day the election observers are needed, one day they're not needed.
Again, that's a great question for the Ohio General Assembly.
Well, actually, it's not. No, actually, it's not, Brian, because the Secretary of State has the freedom within her power as the person who directs the elections in this state to allow for observers to be present. She issued an advisory saying no, and you guys keep saying, you and Jeff Ortega keep saying the Assembly did not allow for it. It also did not say that it is not permitted. She has a call here, and she has said she wants no oversight at these locations, despite actual on-camera admissions from Acorn representatives that they are telling these people who to vote for, walking in and helping them do it.
Again, Bob, we have provided again and again to your show evidence that bipartisan elections officials are overseeing.
Actually, you've provided me nothing, Brian. Brian, Jeff Ortega provided me nothing. When I asked him for specific safeguards that are in place so these things aren't happening, he hung up on me. Said, "Got to go."
Well, Bob,
what is this? What is the secretary hiding?
I'm going to provide very quickly to you, and then I'm also going to have to run because it's clear that this is not a constructive conversation for the voters.
But Brian, it can be. It can be a constructive conversation if you can answer. Let me just do this, okay, and then you can answer it directly because it'll be very constructive if you can. This is the secretary talking in a taped interview with Greta Van Susteren.
There are a number of basically allegations that don't have any evidence to support them. There's much more conjecture than anything else.
It's just conjecture, is what the secretary said. Now, this is an actual person who is being hounded by Acorn voters and registering multiple times.
And how many times have you registered? Probably like however many times somebody has asked me.
Turn that down just a little bit, Kurt, but let it play. Let it resonate. The dial tone you hear right now is indicative of how concerned the Secretary of State in the state of Ohio is with voter fraud. You have said more, Mr. Clark, than any of us ever needed to know by giving us that dial tone. And I hope every freaking one of you rat bastards ends up in jail.